On this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News, hear what the Board of Aldermen had to tell the Mayor and Planning Department about the proposed zoning code, meet some former heroin addicts and their moms, see the latest plans for Union Square, drop in at the Youth Peace Conference, and find out about the city's Sustainable Neighborhoods Working Group. All this and more on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is May 19th and I'm Remy Prevost. Somerville Neighborhood News is your bi-monthly newscast and online source for multimedia news. It's a community service production of SCATV created by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks on Channel 3 and on our website, somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. We begin up at City Hall on May 6th. The Land Use Committee of the Board of Aldermen invited the entire board to hear from the Director of Planning about the proposed new zoning ordinance. It was introduced in January and it was meant to be approved this spring. But the concerns and in some cases the consternation coming from residents and aldermen have forced the city to slow down the process. SNN Director Jane Regan brings us more.
The mayor showed up unexpectedly, and he recognized that many are not happy with the proposed code.
We've gotten some really constructive feedback. In some cases, people don't like some things. Okay, it's incumbent upon us to provide, and George Proakis is going to talk about this, to provide some information back to the public and the board, to talk about some of the studies we want to, at the suggestion of the board, would like to engage in.
And he made a plea for the board to collaborate with the planning department.
And to some point, we will land in what I hope will be a common place.
City Planner George Proakis proposed a new schedule for more public input, but Board President Bill White wasn't totally pleased.
And this body is a separate branch of government, so to the extent that a member of your staff is going to, and again, maybe it's not going to be as if folks watching this could assume that he's going to direct maybe when we should have meetings. You know, I've expressed some concerns about how the process began, you know, how this was, you know, placed upon us, and with our goal and our obligation to the citizens. Yes, there was a process of input with some public meetings that, you know, you folks had, and we have the summer vision. You see, before anything was published and submitted to this board, I would have liked that process to have taken place where we could have gone over some of these things.
Some aldermen want the process slowed way down and pointed out that summer vision took 3 years to write.
If it took us 3 years to do a visionary plan, I'm not quite sure that I understand the rush to do the actual detail in a 6-month period.
Aldermen were also upset that Proakis didn't have responses to the over 1,000 comments and critiques submitted over the past months.
Greater than 1,000 comments, concerns, whatever, were presented to you. Are you suggesting in this proposed consideration of timeline that July is when we, as the board, will be hearing your and your staff's opinions of those comments as a breakdown? Because that's what I thought I was getting tonight.
We need to have a good process that engages the people on this board, but most important is the substance. And there's been a ton of really serious critiques, and I want to see responses to those.
Aldermen also asked City Hall to pay attention to their concerns.
At some point, we're voting on this, and we're making decisions, and I feel like we've had several meetings. I feel like we should, as a board, be coming up, our concerns should be listened to, and that should adjust for what you're going to do, what you're going to present to this community. So I feel like maybe we should be doing our job first, telling you what we want to see changed.
Columnist Bill Shelton was at City Hall that night.
Well, the meeting was fascinating because the zoning is certainly transformational legislation, but what it's transforming is not just the zoning, but the Board of Aldermen. The board is beginning to look like a truly deliberative body. It's beginning in its independence and its willingness to hash through legislation and think carefully about what it's doing and debate real issues.
The next board meeting on this issue is on June 4th, but you don't need to wait for a meeting to get involved. Go on to the city's zoning website, here's the address, check out the code, the parts that interest you, and also people's comments. Get in touch with your alderman and tell him or her about your concerns. But no matter what, if you want to have a say in what the future Somerville looks like and feels like, you should get involved, and soon. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jane Regan.
Now, a related story. On May 13th, Proakis and his colleagues unveiled the latest design for the redevelopment of Union Square and the surrounding neighborhoods. After giving a chance to look at the plans and drawings outside, the meeting moved inside for a presentation and then a question and answer period. There are concerns about the parks, building heights, job creation, affordable housing, and the community benefits agreement, and many other issues. Here is a look at a few moments from that evening.
So what do we hear? We've heard a lot from you folks over the last few months.
Time is a very important context. In regards to the various D-lots, what is the timeline for the proposed changes? For example, when should people expect a rebuilt Bow Street? All right, we're going to get a little more specific. If the public comment scenario results in building beyond the zoning height restrictions, how does that work?
We changed the zoning. I mean, the short answer is, if the community consensus says you want a big public common and taller buildings, what I would do is I would basically set up a system. I mean, brainstorming here, I would say we give people the extra height. In exchange for that, we collect something to cover the cost of purchasing the land for the green space, and you use that extra height benefit to basically spread the opportunity so that you can afford to create the green space as a part of the whole project. I mean,
there are a lot of community meetings and design charrettes in which residents brought up displacement and gentrification concerns. How is that very live and critical discussion informing the design process, or your process, which is the design process?
That was just a glimpse of the meeting, which lasted over an hour. If you want to watch the entire meeting, go to this shortened URL, bit.ly/May13Union. And if you want to download the CD's presentation, which includes the drawings, go to bit.ly/Union Design. Now, as we mentioned in our last newscast, Somerville has not been spared from the heroin epidemic sweeping the state. During the first 3 months of this year alone, at least 6 people overdosed here. Reporter Yu Xiao Huan has been investigating this issue. In the previous newscast, she talked to Police Chief David Fallon. This time, she reaches out to a grassroots organization called Somerville Overcoming Addiction, founded by former addicts, their family members, and other advocates.
This is usually put inside of a gym bag.
In a kid's room?
In a kid's room, you find a gym bag. And inside, that's where they keep, and again, once again, these are not drugs, they're just aspirins, Tylenols. They end up with the pills in it.
Judy Walker and other SOA members hold workshops to teach parents about possible drug hiding spots. They hope the tragedies that happen to them won't repeat on others.
It closes exactly the way it is. Addiction has touched my life through my son. He was incarcerated for a long time and had a child through with a girl that was also addicted to heroin, which in turn caused the child to be addicted to heroin.
It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Growing up in Somerville our entire lives, I'm pretty sure that my son suffered anxiety issues and he had learning disabilities, and I think that with my lack of not wanting to put him on any kind of medication while he was going through school, he started to self-medicate himself.
I don't know, it kind of crept up on me, I guess. Grew up in the projects, I always idolized the wrong people. I wanted to be like them guys. Next thing I know, just landed on my lap and I couldn't turn around. I was stuck. But I didn't start using until my later years, until I was about 25. And then I just went on a run from hell, and it just ruined my life. There was no detoxes for me, there was no nothing. I didn't have health insurance, so you can't get into a detox without health insurance. You can get a free bed, but they're falling few between. So I just ran till the wheels fell off. And I ended up in prison, you know.
Then Jimmy met Matt, also a former addict. Now he works for a treatment center and writes poetry to raise awareness about addiction.
Raising my voice to the nation. Inspiration for every addict getting high in the basement, a kid trying to get clean as a detox patient, that they can say, I am one of the ones that made it.
Matt helped Jimmy get into a recovery program.
I have a similar, start to my drug use as Jimmy, where, I've always had the hardest time trying to fit in, and I always fit in with the wrong people. And when I first started using, which I'm sure same goes with you, is there was nobody talked about what an Oxycontin would do. There was no, hey, this little pill's gonna destroy your life and take absolutely everything from you. It takes your soul, it takes your family, it takes your friends. I'm Matthew Gaynor, and you will remember the name. I'm not anonymous. I remember I went in the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, and I was, a shadow of myself. Like, I couldn't even tell you who was looking back. I didn't have anybody to turn to, I had no friends, I had no family, and, I just had enough. Like, I knew if I continued this path, I wasn't gonna make it. So I attempted to get clean for the umpteenth time, but fortunately for the last time I got clean, it worked.
This is my son, Frank.
Joanne Rivicchio, another member of SOA, lost her son 6 years ago.
My son actually worked for the U.S. Post Office, making $52,000 a year. And one day he had a motorcycle accident in Woburn, and that was the end. That was the beginning of the end. For 10 years he fought an addiction with Oxycontin. The Mass General doctor put him on that, which I don't understand, because Oxycontin, even though he had severe injuries, the Oxycontin was generally made for people that were dying of cancer, to help them with their pain. Not to be given to someone that just had an accident. What's wrong with even Percocets or anything that was, less the strength of Oxycontin. He struggled. 2 days before my son died, he cried to me and he said, "Ma, I don't want to die." But he was in the process of getting the employee assistance program in the post office to help him. But the person that he spoke to in confidence, that was a friend, he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to be running for union representative." And out of the mouth of this person, without even thinking about what you're saying, he said, "Who would want to vote for a junkie?" And that's when everything spiraled and went downhill for him.
A lot of us have checkered pasts, and we've all made mistakes in life, but the fact is we can turn our lives around and make something of ourselves. We're not just a junkie.
Oh, I went back to school, I got my GED, I got my HVAC certificate, I'm certified, and here I am today, clean and sober.
Somerville Overcoming Addiction lobbies officials, does trainings, holds vigils, and organizes other events to raise awareness and to fight the heroin and opioid epidemic. But they are not the only ones fighting back. In my next segment, I'll take a look at some of the other efforts around the city. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.
To learn more about upcoming events and to get involved in SOA, check out their Facebook page, facebook.com/Somerville Overcoming Addiction. Now let's see what's in this week's edition of the Somerville Journal.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal, we'll have the latest on designs for Union Square. We'll have coverage of the proposed school budget, and we'll be looking at Porch Fest this weekend. You can always check us at wickedlocal.com/Somerville. You can reach us on Twitter at VilleJournal and get in touch with me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
Now we take a look at the Sustainable Neighborhood Working Group, launched earlier this year by the Mayor's Office. This 29-person group is tasked with devising ways to protect and preserve affordable housing here. One of the goals is to expand city resources to create more housing, including housing for the middle-income families.
The working group held its third meeting at the V&A home on Lowell Street on April 28th. Holly St. Clair of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council presented data on the shortage of housing, especially affordable housing, around the region.
Let's wrap our arms around Somerville housing and what is it?
The new working group has a big job ahead to come up with a series of mechanisms and programs that will keep the city affordable.
There's just not enough housing, but in particular, there's not enough housing for people across a range of income spectrums. So anywhere from extremely low income households, people who are facing homelessness, all the way up to people who are middle income who make a good salary but still can't find appropriate housing for them in Somerville. It's an issue of people want to live in Somerville, and we think that's great, but we want to make sure that there's opportunities for a wide range of people to do so.
Members include academics, community advocates, and finance and real estate industry professionals.
I am a landlord, so I also own a multifamily, and I keep rents at affordable levels, and I want to be involved with this group because I'm really concerned about the future of Somerville and making sure that the people who currently live in Somerville, both homeowners and renters, can stay in Somerville and don't have to move because the rents are too high or they can't afford to pay their mortgage or their property taxes because they're too high based on, the rising market prices of what housing is going for in this area.
What neighborhoods are in danger? What kinds of changes might take place if the city doesn't get a handle on this? And what does that term sustainable mean? In order to find out, I took a ride with working group member Joe Beckman.
Sustainable in the context of the Sustainability Committee, sustainable means maintaining the diversity of the city. It means how can Somerville stay like Somerville?
Beckman is also a member of the Union Square Civic Advisory Committee. He's very concerned about the neighborhoods around the square.
I think the most vulnerable neighborhoods are these, the ones we're going to, because there are no fallbacks. And this neighborhood is a particularly vulnerable one. And it's nice because they've got little trees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're going to Washington Street. Washington Street is the other first station. And nobody has begun to think about what that means. Okay? Kind of scary. This stuff will be mostly tall buildings within 10 years, 20 years. It will be very urban. It will not be at all like what we know. And the challenge is to make sure that some of the people, not all of them, but some of the people have a right to stay and to participate in that extreme gentrification. This is Gilman Square we are now entering. This is the Gilman Square neighborhood. And it's very vulnerable. It's much more vulnerable than they think. They have no idea, these small houses, that it's charming and it's nice, but it's going to be a block from a new subway station.
But Beckman is confident that the ideas being considered, including new tax abatements for benevolent landlords and a real estate transaction tax, can help solve the challenges facing the city.
There's so much opportunity here that everybody can win if it's done right. And I think the thing that's fascinating about Somerville is that we can collaborate ourselves into real success if we work it through. What's fascinating to me is how well we like each, how much we like each other and how different we all are.
Now let's head over to the Somerville High School. On May 9th, the Center for Teen Empowerment, Somerville Public Schools, and the City of Somerville hosted the 9th Annual Youth Peace Conference. This year, the theme was True Life, Villain Life, and it is focused on teen violence, substance abuse, and on teen mental health. There were performances, discussions, and workshops. SCATV member Jason Corey and SCATV board member Henry Parker were there.
We work for Teen Empowerment. We are community facilitators, so we have a lot of different roles, but in the Peace Conference today, we're training youth between 13 and 21 how to facilitate workshops. So after the performances, we're going to have classrooms filled with audience members, and they're going to talk about mental health in a workshop run by youth.
This be our motto. In God is our trust. In the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave, our national anthem. Being an African-American woman is a heavy handicap, more like an oppression. It did nothing but go to my head, go to my head.
What's going on here?
Damn, what's going on? Yeah,
Officer, you don't understand. Those girls. No, Ramona. Were you really about to fight those girls here in the hallway? Like, really?
I didn't start this.
Well, I believe you. But Ramona, Rose, y'all have more to lose than these girls. You haven't been in trouble in so long, and this can get in the way of you graduating. Do you really want that?
No, sir.
How has this organization impacted your life?
Personally, I am quite outgoing now. First, I was just to myself, but now I'm able to be open and talk to and meet more people.
What did you take away from this performance?
It's actually like a really good event, just like getting the community together and everything, and like talking about these issues, just like, you know, it's annual, so like once a year, just getting the whole community together, talking about these issues, thinking of like coming up with ways to solve these issues. Just like a really great overall event that everybody can take away from this.
Okay, folks, we're about to bring this program of Peace Conference to an end, and I hope you enjoy it, and whatever you take away from this program, support our youth.
Next, we bring you a preview from a special 3-part series on race relations that is running on SCATV's Greater Somerville. In the first installment, host Joe Lynch interviews Mayor Joseph A. Curtatone and Police Chief David Fallon.
You know, growing up in the city, I remember when it was an all-white, all-male police force. Yeah. What have you got today in terms of your makeup?
Yeah, I think, you know, with the leadership of the city, you know, half of our officers now are bilingual, just about half. About 20% of our officers in our patrol force are black. A big Hispanic population within the patrol force, and we're moving towards increasing. We have 9 officers entering the academy in May, and 4 of them are going to be female. Yeah. And we're very proud of that. But, you know, from a policing perspective, you know, we're thinking about it intently in the police department. We're looking at Ferguson, where I believe only 3 officers are black, but Baltimore has a majority-minority police force. So we realize that regardless of the makeup of the police department, it can happen anywhere. I mean, we have a mandate from the mayor to be transparent of what we do at the Somerville Police Department, and it's vitally important. And, you know, engagement. We engage with community. I mean, here we are in Somerville having this conversation before something happens. Vitally important.
Yeah, we undertook over the last, as you know, Joe, you witnessed over the last decade plus a transformation and reformation of the police department. We do not want to be a military reactive or arresting force. We have to be problem solvers. Every officer needs to be engaged with everyone in the community, to care to know them, to care to listen to them. Let's solve problems before they become problems or crimes. The wrong indicator of success used to be how many arrests we made. That's an indication of failure.
If you want to see the half-an-hour program, check it out at SCATV's new video on-demand service at bit.ly/Greater Sville Race. Up next, health tips from Dr. Ira Michelson, host of Taking Back Your Health, right here on SCATV on Thursdays at 7 p.m. or on our website.
Good evening, Dr. Ira Michelson for the Somerville Neighborhood News. I want to talk to you tonight about one of my favorite topics, namely milk. Everybody has seen the commercials and the mustaches and the question, have you got milk? Well, that implies that milk is a really healthy food. But I think we're starting to question this today. I was certainly brought up to believe that milk is healthy, but more and more now that we're hearing that there are problems with milk. There are certainly health issues from lactose intolerance, which is gas and diarrhea and rumbling in the stomach, which people find very uncomfortable. There certainly is knowledge that milk is a very high-fat food, and a lot of the fat in milk is saturated fat, which is the kind that goes on to line our arteries to give us atherosclerosis or hardening of the arteries. And there's protein intolerance. People get allergic reactions to the milk protein, rashes, and babies become fussy and can't tolerate it. Additionally, there have been studies recently that have shown that drinking more milk is actually associated with a higher, not lower fracture rate, and also that if you drink more milk, you have a shorter, not a longer life expectancy. So I think the bottom line here is that we need to rethink our attitude toward milk. It's not as healthy as we once thought it was. And if you ask me, have I got milk? The answer I'm going to give you is no. Dr. Ira Michelson for the Somerville Neighborhood News. Good night.
We end tonight right here at the Old Firehouse in Union Square. SN founding news director Jane Regan is stepping down after 40 newscasts. The staff recently organized a party for her and to celebrate the news show in general. SCATV Operation Manager Miguel Rivas brings us the story.
With sadness in our heart, friends, family, colleagues, and students gather here today to wish farewell to one of our greatest, the founder and creators of SNN, Jane Regan. The event started with State Rep Denise Provost presenting a citation for her work and dedication to the community. Wendy Blom, ED of SCATV, commented on how the project started and who was the only one to accept the challenge.
And we were thrilled because she's such an amazing journalist, and it's really what we wanted, is somebody who could take the ball and run with it and really understood the ethics of journalism and how to get a good story.
Erica Jones remembered the beginnings of SNN and the hard work of Jane Regan.
When Jane first came here, I was like, who is this lady? She is too intense. I'm intense. We can't have a competitor to my intensity. All kidding aside, I mean, it was a shift dramatically when I was like, I get this person, and she's so passionate about what she wants to do.
With her mind focused on social justice and the lack of local coverage from the mainstream media, Jane took upon herself to make SNN the voice of the people here in Somerville.
It's been really refreshing to have a program that gives voice not just to our perspective, but to the issues that we're concerned about. And, you know, I think they've tried to get both sides, but they've really focused on a lot of job and local hire, employment issues that are near and dear to us in the labor movement.
The Somerville Neighborhood News always makes a difference. It provides a way for people in Somerville to see what's going on here, how to understand the news and the context of their lives.
All of Jane's shows are Somerville-centric, and the news programs that she produces, the folks that she gets to anchor her shows, the interns that come from the colleges and universities across this area, I mean, they're gaining invaluable experience working with Jane.
UN expressed her gratitude and her concern on who is going to be the new news director.
I work really well with Jane, and it's definitely a question for me that what will like the next person would be like. Will she like also be like a good supervisor as Jane is, and will she like be as generous as Jane is?
We were able to ask Jane about her next step in her career, and here's what she has to say.
I've had over 30 years of being a journalist, like running around the world and around Massachusetts, and I'm kind of tired. So I'm hoping to catch my breath and to take stock and figure out what would be the next the next chapter for me, what would be the best use of my talents. I'm a very privileged person. I have a great education. I speak a lot of languages.
Reported on issues like undocumented students in Somerville High School and the redevelopment of the Union Square, Jane Regan, interns and volunteers' voices has been heard. Reporting for SNN, Miguel Rivas.
And if you ever wondered what it takes to pull off a newscast like this, you can check out the story from reporter Hadley Green at bit.ly/SNN behind the scenes. Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back on June the 2nd at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. In the meantime, check out our news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. Also, visit our Facebook page, SCATV SNN, to comment and share your favorite segments. Tweet us at SCATV SNN. We welcome you to get involved, become a reporter, or just send in your ideas. Call us at 617-628-8826 or email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Remy Prevost. Thank you for joining us, and see you around the neighborhood.